I'm in Shenandoah National Park near mile marker 38. And there's a little parking lot here. This is a parking lot you park in to go to see the Corbin cabin. And that trail is across Skyline Drive in that direction. And that's worth seeing. I'm going to be hiking over here in this direction. And I'm going to be initially getting on the Appalachian Trail, and then I'm going to hike south just a short distance, and then I'm going to jump off and bushwhack my way to a location that's indicated on one of the topo maps where one of the old shelters used to be. The Park Service pulled it out a long time ago, like maybe in the 1960s. But I'm going to hike back in there and see if I can find where it used to be. Tenth of a mile into my hike. The elevation here is about 3,070 feet. It's about 3,100 up in the parking lot. This is the Appalachian Trail. That's where I came from. And I'm at a spot where I'm going to jump off and start going down the side of the mountain down in this Shaver Hollow. I'm going to see if I can pick up any remains of an old trail that would have led to the shelter. Otherwise, if I don't find any remains of the trail, I'm just going to change gears and just bushwhack to the location of the shelter indicated on the topo map. But first, let's go down this way and see if we can find any of the old trail. Three-tenths of a mile into my hike, I'm down to 2960. Wow, I had to bushwhack my way through this stuff. But I finally found a remnant of the old trail right here. But I came from that way, just bushwhacking my way through all this mountain laurel. But here's the old trail going down this way. So I'm going to follow this. This should take me past a couple of my other waypoints that I programmed into my GPS, and then finally over to the shelter. I believe the shelter's up there on that ridge line somewhere, though, from looking at the map. So anyway, let's go down this way and see if we can work our way over. Still working my way over to see if I can find the shelter, but that's the road I came down on. And right here, look at this. This is another branch of the road that heads on down that way, down the side of the mountain. Now that's not shown on the topo maps, but here's where they came together. And then I assume they go on over this way towards the shelter. So we'll see what happens. If you decide to try and find this place, a word to the wise, I think the best bet is to look for the old road and then try and follow it. I'm following it now. I had to do a little zigzag up there at my last video to get down to this part of it. But way up there, if you decide to follow the ridge line down, this is what you're going to be hiking on. It's going to be pretty rough going. It's pretty rough going here. Anyway, it looks to me like I can see that the road just continues on this way. So I'm going to follow it, and we'll see if we end up where the shelter used to be. Four-tenths of a mile into my hike, I'm down to 28.70. Well, 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 isn't that a curious sign right there? Out here in the middle of nowhere. Let me show you where I am. That's continuing on down the side of the mountain. And there's the sign. And I don't see an area yet. I'm going to go around the corner and see if there's any better place where the shelter would have been. There's the trail it came down on, or road, whatever you want to call it. And if you try and come down, if you try and follow the ridge line down, that's what you're going to be hiking on. That's going to be kind of nasty. On my way back, I may just keep following this road and see where I end up, or until I get high enough up close to Skyline Drive. But that thing, I don't know if my still picture will come out, but it says, overnight camping in or within sight of this shelter is prohibited, blah, blah, blah. During times of storm, backcountry campers may seek overnight shelter here if unable to otherwise maintain a safe camp. So if this exact spot isn't where it was, maybe it's around the corner here. Let's go take a look and see. All right, well, if I had to guess, I'd say that sign I showed you is around the corner over there. But this area here is pretty flattened out, level. You got to remember, this thing was probably pulled out 60 years ago, so but this is fairly flat. And then down there is the road that I was hiking on, or it could have been, the shelter could have been right there, where all that dirt is, you know, piled up there. Let me move over here. I gotta watch what I'm doing. So that might have been where it was right there. Anyway, the road comes down like this, and then it takes a turn. I don't know if it continues on or not. I can't tell that yet, but this agrees with the marking on the topo map. So within, let's see, I programmed the coordinates into my GPS that I saw on the map, and I'm within 75 feet. So I'm going to say this is where it was. I don't see any trace of it, though. I was thinking maybe there would still be a fire pit or something like that here. There's supposed to be a spring just a little west of here, so I might, if the trail keeps heading to the west, I might go over there and see if I can find the spring. Otherwise, this is definitely where it was. It's either there or, you know, up in here somewhere. See how cleared out this is? Even after 60 years. Now in the summer, who knows what grows up here in the summer. I'm here in, you know, the middle of April right now. And the trees are just starting to bud. Well, look at that. That's part of the stonework from the shelter, and you can see how it's stepping up going uphill. And this area right in through here, you can see it was dug out. And so the shelters have one open side, and the open side, according to where that's at, would have been facing this way. So you'd have had a nice view looking to the west, down into the valley, Shenandoah Valley. So that thing right there, I mean, that's got concrete in it. That's concrete and stone. That's one of the side wings of the building. Okay, well, up there on that flat plateau, that's where the shelter was. And you just continue to follow the trail down here around the bend to the west. There's a little bit of a feeder stream right there. And then right here's the spring. And I mean, it's kind of falling apart now, but maybe you can see, I mean, it was constructed out of stones and concrete, mortar and stuff. And it's flowing good. And they even put one of these signs in the ground that says spring. On the concrete it says spring. I haven't read the bans, but they probably just tell you to boil the water or use tablets. And then the trail probably once upon a time continued on to the west like that, but I'm not going to go any further. I found what I was looking for. It's going to be hard enough to get back where I started from. But anyway, there's the spring right there. It's still here. Seven-tenths of a mile into my hike. I'm up to 29-23 elevation. There's where the road coming up. And when you get to a certain point, the road stops and you have to do a switchback. So when you're coming up from the bottom, you'll go to the right and go up there, and then up there a ways, and then up to the left and continue on up. The road continues on up that way. So you got to switch. Well, I'm back up on the Appalachian Trail. Right over there is a parking lot. But I walked over here because I saw this. This is a National Park Service survey marker. And I got a sneaky suspicion they used this to put the road in. Because the road, I think the old road, I followed it up as far as I could. And then I just came straight up the side of the mountain. But the old road probably comes in right about where that post is that concrete post. So a spot like this would have been a perfect spot for a survey. Plus, if you look down there, down that way is where the road goes. So they could have clear cut some trees and used this survey marker to put the road in. That had been a long time ago, though. Anyway, I'll get a close-up of this thing. So just to summarize, if you park up there in the parking lot, you come down here. This is the intersection with the Appalachian Trail. And I went down that way a ways and then headed down the side of the mountain. I went down there maybe 100 yards. But if you just come to the sign and veer off to the left like that and start heading down the side of the hill, if you're observant, you should be able to see the road when you get to it. But, you know, keep in mind, it's an old road, it's not maintained, it's all covered with trees and brush and whatnot, but it's there. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Old Rag Mountain 1994, and I was hiking to see if I could find the location of this shelter, Shaver Hollow Shelter, which is shown on the map here, but it was pulled, it was taken down by the Park Service. I don't know exactly when, but way back in the 1960s sometime. Because they decided, I think it was too close to Skyline Drive. This red line here is Skyline Drive. So you can see it's pretty close. You get too many party animals in those shelters and they tear them up, and then the Park Service has to clean up behind them, and et cetera, et cetera. So there was a bunch of shelters, about 5 or 6 of them, including this one, that they took out back in the 60s. And I've always wanted to see if I could find the site where it was. And so that's what this hike was about today. This red line here is Skyline Drive coming down from the north. And here's mile marker 38. So this is like mile marker 37, maybe 0.7 or something like that. And there's a little parking concrete parking pad on the north side of Skyline Drive here. Now, I'll just point out, this trail coming down through here, this Corbin Cabin Cutoff Trail, that takes you down to Corbin Cabin, which is a historic cabin down this way that you can rent out from PATC if you're interested. But anyway, back to today's hike. So we park here, and then basically this line right here is the Appalachian Trail coming through here. So there's a short connector road that gets you from the parking lot to the Appalachian Trail, and then you turn left. And I darkened in this line here. This is the old service road going down to the Shaver Hollow Shelter, which is right there on the map. So what I did was I got the coordinates of this spot, and then I was trying to figure out the best way to get down there. This is pretty steep. Each one of these contour lines is a 40-foot drop. And one idea I had was to come along the Appalachian Trail until you get to this ridge line, and then follow this ridge line down until I hit the shelter. Well, that's a bad idea because this is extremely overgrown and very rocky. So that's not a good option. And just in this area here, I really couldn't make out any type of an old road. So what I did was I came over to here and kind of followed this pencil line down like this. This is a bushwhack. Down until finally I got down to here and I actually saw the old road and got on it. This little zigzag here is a switchback. You'll see that in my hike videos. And then you basically, you have to hack your way through a lot of blown down trees and mountain laurel and so forth. But eventually you'll come down to the spot, sort of a cleared out area. There's nothing there now anymore except for a little bit of the stone foundation is still there. And then if you continue to follow the trail off to the west, just maybe another 100 yards or so, you'll find the spring that was there. So this is one of the shelters that was in the park, maybe even before the park was formed. And then sometime around in the 1960s, sometime the Park Service decided they needed to just pull some of these shelters out of there. And this is one of the ones that they took out. So this is, if you get lucky from up here, you might be able to make out the remains of the road, but you got to keep in mind this road going down there, I mean, it was just a dirt or a gravel road, and it hasn't been used for, 50 years at least. So it's pretty hard to make it out. But that's the key, is to go down here until you hit the road, and then just follow the road on down until you get down to the shelter. It was a real short hike. It was only 1 mile and 290 feet of elevation. So real short. This was mostly just exploration on my part. But it's kind of a fun hike if you enjoy trying to find old stuff that might be a little off the beaten path. This is a pretty good hike to take. And that was the hike for today.